positive speaking person. A lot of people didn't want to hear him because he was preaching the stone
Yeah.
what fiery
Yeah.
stones and brimstone or
Mm. Well, this is the similar kind of narration that you would find in the New Testament in the book of Revelation. After Christ established his church, and after a while, they were doing okay for a while, but then um, there are seven churches that they had, but some of them start to stray from the path. And so uh, in the book of Revelation, they send like it goes like, "This is the Alpha. I'm the Alpha. I'm the Omega. Gave my warning to these seven churches. I'm happy that you did this and this, but I hold it against you that you did not do this and do that."
yeah.
So the book of Amos.
Yeah. That's the stuff that I really got into though whenever I was getting into that area. I was just about to finish up on the walls of Jericho
Okay.
and I already done the New Testament. I started doing I finished that. Then I started from the beginning, and by the time I got to freaking the walls of Jericho, I was already burned out because Leviticus. You've got to be a madman to freaking say that you
Yeah.
enjoy Leviticus. I
Yeah.
don't care who you are. If
No.
you know that is some hardcore reading right there, man. So.
But let's talk about the Amorites' destruction for a second, right? You
Mhm.
know, why you can like from a non Jewish / non-Christian's point of view, you can ask, why would a loving God destroy a whole race, right? Right? Like why would a loving God be bent on committing Jewish genocide? Huh? And and the answer is um you know how so there are two sides to the there are two aspects of God. One's being justice, and the other part being mercy. Right?
Mhm.
Um, and so in the Old Testament, the people of God, Israelites, or the chosen people of God, they were like it's like how you treat uh, uh, an infant child. First, start to feed it with milk, and then you learn to, over time, you start giving it solid food to get him used to it before you put him full time on solid food. If a baby was born and you stuffed solid food into him, he would probably not be able to deal with it. But this is the same kind of dealing that God deals with his people. When they're in the Old Testament, they were infantile, they're uncivilized, and they need to learn about justice first before God can come down to teach them about his mercy. So the justice of God is that the message of justice is that the wage of sin is death, right? I mean, if God is the God of life, anything that's opposing life is death. Right? So if you go against the source of life itself, then it's the end for you, and that's the and it doesn't mean it's like a cruel judgment or something. That's just a fact of uh, of, mm, of how everything is in the universe, right? Like you put your hand into an electrical socket, you would get shocked,
Yeah.
right? Just literal. And so the Israelite needs to learn before Jesus came that, yep, if you're and you if you violate God's law, then the end result is death. And you can see some of that judgment pretty immediate. Okay, the judgment on the Amorite were long and delayed. They had like, it was all drawn out, and you saw me quoting in one of the verse. It was said that their sins have not reached its peak yet, so they were not being destroyed because and the Israelites had a chance to destroy them before when they sent in the spies, um, and they were planning on how they could take them out, but um, the message was that it's not the time yet.
Mm-hmm.
And so there the Amorite judgment was delayed, right? But we saw somewhere else in the Old Testament where people committed a sin and they were killed instantly. Right? I think it was during the King David's reign where uh, some of the carrier of the Ark of the Covenant, like they stumble or something, they stumble and they cause the covenant to shake, and then he was killed instantly.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, just like where's that? The Onan, the famous story about Onan spilling a seed on the ground, right? When was having sexual relations with his the wife of his brother to try to give him because he died or something and didn't have any descendant. And Onan decided to spill his seed on the ground instead of spilling his seed in his brother's wife, right? And he was killed instantly. So. So that is the essence of God's justice that the Israelite had to learn, that you go against nature, you get hurt, and sometimes kill you. And I think we still that consequence is still going on until today. Today, when you're doing something that's unnatural, you might enjoy it in the short term, but in the long term, there's harm that is being done. Maybe not immediately, but bit by bit, is doing damage to your body, to your soul, it impacts your loved ones. You may not notice it, but over time the effects accumulate, and you will see it. So that's why there are a lot of unhappiness in the families today, because people are they're doing stuff they're not helpful to the unity of the family. But all I can say. But then, so that's the Old Testament. In the New Testament, Jesus then came to teach the Israelite about his mercy, right? And even though they have sinned and gone astray, they have offended their Creator so many times that even their own it's not their own doing is not enough to repay for the offenses that they have done. Right? So even their death is not enough to pay for the sin that they have committed over the ages. And that's why God himself has to come down and atone for their sins by offering himself up as payment for their debt. And that's the mercy that God teaches in the final days.
That's perfect. So, how much time have we spent, by the way? Have we done at least an hour?
Yep, I think we're 7:09, 7:10 here my time, so I think we're just about an hour. How much time do you have on your live stream going through?
I've got you on full screen. You got full attention, like I said, man. I mean, I haven't even been. Oh wow, an hour and 25 minutes. Pretty good.
Okay.
An hour and 9 minutes.
Like I said, I started to research to review these Amorites, and I became overwhelmed on how much material there are.
Yeah.
So I think we're just briefly scratching through the surface. Yeah, right. We haven't talked about how they have. I mean, I've only relied on biblical sources, right? We haven't talked about how they, as a civilization, have developed and become so powerful that they were actually feared by the Israel. It's unheard of that they end up getting destroyed by the Israelites, but they are the stronger one. They should have been the one that smoked out.
It is pretty interesting, and from what I've heard, though, and don't quote me on it, but from what I've heard, the Bible has the most extensive amount of information when it comes to the Amorites. It's like I was telling you about with the Sumerians and everything. Like they have very little information concerning these Amorites. I wasn't even aware that the Amorites were the ones who founded Babylon.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That just kind of threw me off right there.
Yeah. So maybe maybe we need to do a part 3 to deep dive into their civilization a little.
Well,
in the new year.
I'll tell you what, man. We'll try to get some stuff going on it and get things set up. I wanted to end this one with the Amorites because, like with my history, everything leads back to the Amorites. And I know that sounds weird, and I know how the Bible portrays them.
Yeah.
But I mean,
well, they are not Israel's greatest enemy.
Right.
But they're one of the big ones.
Yeah. But it's like the Sumerians talked about them. Not the Akkadians talked about them, then the Assyrians talked about them, but they don't even come close to the amount of information that the Jews had in their Old Testament or the Torah. Like I think they said that they were mentioned 90 times in the Old Testament. That's a big deal because they don't mention stuff that many times in the Old Testament. It's usually maybe like 5 or 10 times, but that's about the best you can get.
Yeah, I have an electronic Bible. I could search for it. Yeah, I think you're about.